It's about climate. It's about protecting native plants, human health, indigenous species. It's about clean water. I still don't know what this is really all about, but there's no doubt that there's a real attack on farmers happening on every corner of this planet, which logically poses one very obvious question.
If you get rid of the farmers, you still need to eat something, especially protein, right?
Maybe they don't want the food production like it is right now. I mean, we produce potatoes, and we produce milk, and we produce meat, and maybe there's a government who doesn't want us to eat anymore that kind of food.
Instead turn to what?
Oh, insects, bugs, I don't know. There are these new projects where insects are grown.
The people who are getting kicked off the land, are they, like, some of them talking about moving to insect farming?
No. I don't know any farmer who now works with cows who wants to be an insect farmer. Absolutely not. Yeah. It's like a nightmare thing. Even as a consumer, I think. Yeah. I don't want to eat insects.
Yeah, no.
I don't know if they're good for me.
Yeah, me neither. But in case you haven't heard, insect farming is now a thing, and even Iron Man is on board.
This looks like I could make cocoa with this. What is?
That's an insect-based premium protein. It's made from molitor, which is mealworm larvae. The company is called Insect. Just been approved by the EU for human consumption.
And like Ninki mentioned, the insect craze is catching on here in the Netherlands as well.
What are you sort of seeing right now in the Netherlands? Are you seeing a lot of farmers moving towards insects?
That would be a fantastic scenario, but at this stage that's not yet the case.
Hey, I had a question. I'm in Amsterdam right now, and I was talking to a company here called Bugs. They said that you do cricket catering and stuff like that.
Yeah, so we produce meatballs, burgers, shawarma, that sort of stuff from insects. And we sell to restaurants, with 8 restaurants currently that have our products. And then we supply to catering companies.
Hey, I was speaking to a company in Rotterdam, and they told me that you actually farm insects.
Yes.
Do you think more farmers are going to start to go down the same road?
Maybe, but in Europe it's quite difficult to change the consumers to insects. No, it's not going that fast as we expected when we started.
Would it be possible for me to come by? Because I'd love to see like what an actual farm like that looks like.
Distrobugs is an insect food producer, owned and operated by Jurt Coopers, who promises that Distrobugs is doing everything they can to remove any ignorance and resistance to bug eating. These right here are the mealworms, right?
Yes.
Obviously. And then these right here are the crickets.
Yes.
How many farms in the Netherlands currently farm insects?
I think about 20 mealworm farms, and crickets I think about 8, 9 at the moment.
Oh, so it's not that many.
Not that many, no.
Do you think there'll be more farmers switching over to farming insects rather than farming, beef or cattle or sheep?
Yes, I think there will be a lot of new farms who will produce mealworms and crickets.
So you feel like this is kind of a growing industry?
Yes, it's a growing industry. The insects will come inside after that door. We cook them in this kettle here.
Oh, it's...
At the moment we can process about 500 kilograms.
Really?
Yes.
That's significant.
Yes,
Yeah.
but it has to be more.
Yeah. It tastes just like sunflower chips.
Yes. We can put insects in all products. We make meatballs, burgers, sausage rolls, and pasta, bread, smoothies, and shakes, etc.
So this right here is sort of the future of food.
Yes, this is future of food.
So let's say somebody watching this is against the idea of eating bugs, or insects. What would you tell them?
Everybody has to make their own choices to eat it, yes or no. At the moment on Twitter you can see some news about it. You get cancer from mealworms, you get cancer from insects, and nobody knows. So I hope we can push a lot of products into the market. But it's a push market, so we have to push it.
Today, the European Commission has officially declared mealworms to be food. It could be a game changer for insect farmers. They're now hoping to grow their businesses and turn insects into another source of protein for Europeans, even if just a niche one.
There's this top-down globalist idea that certain Western countries have diets that they do not approve of. In other words, they're more meat-based, and they feel that humans don't need meat-based protein. And they want to either force people to follow their paradigms, or they want to buy or accumulate farmland, and that's how they're going to farm it. It's sort of like the Soviet Union or Mao's Cultural Revolution. It's top-down, and it results in disasters.
The UN Food and Agriculture Organization in 2013, they put out this very bizarre report, and they said we need Westerners to start eating bugs, right? And that wasn't on anybody's radar. We didn't eat bugs, that's disgusting. And so they said we need a massive propaganda campaign in the media to convince them that they're going to save the planet. Well, we're seeing that. NPR, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, the BBC, even Fox News, right? They've been peddling this idea that bugs are delicious and nutritious. Now you got all these celebrities eating bugs and teaching people that it's trendy and cool to eat bugs. And as we speak, they are right now building the largest insect protein processing facility on the planet outside Decatur, Illinois. They're building another one up in Canada. They know there's not really demand for bugs right now, right? How many Americans do you know that are clamoring for cricket sandwiches, right? Practically none. And so I expect that as these food shortages develop, as the price of staples goes through the roof, people will say, okay, I'm really hungry. My kids are really hungry. I can't afford a steak anymore. So, all right, I'll eat your stupid crickets.
Construction on the Klamath River Dam removal project is set to begin in a couple of weeks. Right now, teams are already on site. Construction prep work is underway. Some of the dams are scheduled to be removed in 2024, but the first one will be removed from the river in September.
We live in fear. What are they going to do next to us here? When people go up the road, we wonder if, they're sneaking on our property and trying to take pictures, and we've had drones flying over trying to prove something, anything that we may be doing wrong on this river. And it's intimidating. If we're heading for a world food crisis, as we hear all the time, then perhaps we should release the noose on the food providers.
We don't farm and ranch with a big margin. We don't do it so that we make a bunch of money and can take the family on vacation. We do it because we love the lifestyle. We love raising our kids, learning to do something productive, providing people with something they really need. I just hope that it doesn't come to a point where we lose ranches in Scott Valley, because I don't know what it would be without agriculture. What replaces our fields? It's either going to be some kind of development, or I guess corporate farms.
When you start to see people like Bill Gates gobble up farmland, and you read what his foundation says about farming, when they say that we're going to have a particular type of agriculture, they want large blocks run by the government or by private consortia, where they say we're not going to have animal-based proteins, we're not going to have stockyards, we're not going to have turkey farms, we're not going to have chicken. The academic mind always has the answers, but never in the real world. And they do a lot of damage.
Everywhere you look, small and medium-sized farms being gobbled up by these corporate mega farms because they can't keep up anymore. They can't comply with these endless streams of regulations that are coming down. We're seeing that in China now, where these giant mechanized corporate, big government-controlled mega farms are displacing all these little small family farms that families have been farming for hundreds of years, in some cases longer. They're moving them all off their little plots of land and moving them into these big, horrific mega cities that they have built. And we're going to see that all over the world with the decimation of small farms. So if they're not bankrupted by economic forces, the government itself will shut them down.
Everything is falling apart. There is a shortage of food. Many people do not have enough money to eat every day.
Everybody's out here today because they understand that when our government actually expropriates our farmers, you know, we're all next.
Not just Holland is now facing these types of regulations, but you can see the attack on farmers all over the world. It's an agenda that is carried out on a global level, that is being pushed through government officials in respective countries.
This is precisely how the globalists have managed to take over national parliaments and national governments.
20 countries equal 80% of all the emissions. You solve the problem to start with by making sure all of those 20 countries are doing what they need to do. We have to pull them to the table and leverage further. So how do we get there? Well, the lesson I've learned in the last year is money, 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 money.
They're following a script where they are thinking already from the perspective of a global, bureaucratic, quasi-totalitarian system of governing, system of rules. This is an agenda, and all these countries are implementing the same policies. So they've targeted the farmers because that's the agenda.
When the American nation was founded, 95% of the people were homestead citizens. They had their own land. And they were completely independent, autonomous. They raised their own food. They were outspoken. They were economically viable. Farming serves two purposes. It doesn't just produce food, but it produces citizens.
John, can you give us an idea of how much it's costing you to operate your farm right now this year compared to the same time last year?
Well, right now things have tripled as far as costs for my own farming operation and for many farmers across the country. And I think you're going to see across the board higher food prices.
Food prices are already up dramatically this year, last year a little bit too, and we might see more empty shelves in America. Even the president is promising food shortages in his conversation, so there's no need for this to be happening. You know, the people are the ones that are going to be hurt. You know, not just farmers, you know, trying to make a living. It's going to be the food supply of this country, which is a staple of our security of our nation, being able to grow the grain and the crops that we do, that not only supplies us, but our allies and other trading partners around the world.
We have 8 billion people on the planet now, and that's sustainable if they allow agriculture to continue to be mechanized and genetically altered. And I don't think they understand that if they tamper with that, you're going to have people go hungry.
We are headed into, I think, a time of very significant food shortages. Can we expect to see massive increases in food prices next year? Oh, no question about it. So I think the end goal of the war on farmers that we're seeing, which is guided at every step by the Sustainable Development Goals and Agenda 2030, is going to be a total consolidation of agriculture, a total consolidation of the food supply, and as every communist tyrant of the last 100 years has understood, if you control the food, you control the people. I think that's ultimately the end goal.
So, what now? Do we fall in line with the UN, sacrifice our current diets, and instead turn to alternative sources of protein, like insects? Do we sacrifice our small, independent farmers and their livelihoods in favor of species that may or may not be endangered, or plants that can't be replaced by trees because of an agreement made between politicians last century? Do we strip all farmers worldwide of synthetic fertilizers that they say are essential to feed our population? If America was built to be governed by the people, then it should be the people who make these decisions, right? And if small businesses are failing and the middle class is shrinking while food prices skyrocket and grocery store shelves become bare, then perhaps it's time that we take a look at what's happening to our friends over in Asia and Europe and decide if their path is the right one to follow.
There's a group of people that is thinking they're doing everything good for nature. And they are against farmers. And why? I don't know. Because they think we do everything wrong.
Hello, how are you doing? Sadly, very, very sad.
in the neighborhood here are the 6 people who killed themselves because they don't see how it must go further. Mostly are cow farmers. Yeah, the government in Holland, they're crazy, they're f***ing crazy. I hope that you can tell in your story about the anger and that people don't know what to do and they finish with their own lives and everything. Yeah, you can tell that to the world.
The reason that so many people are suddenly so interested in what's happening over in the Netherlands is because the policies being pushed there are very similar. They, in fact, quite literally mirror the policies being pushed here in America. I'm your host, Roman from the Epoch Times. Stay informed, and most importantly, stay free.
Conditions have radically changed throughout the state, but not enough in places like Klamath and around the Colorado River Basin to call for the end of the drought in California.
En nu hebben we Mieke Koopmans, boer, 80 koeien.
It's hard. I don't really know how to talk to this government anymore because they're not listening. It's not a democracy anymore in Holland. That's what I feel like. That's what I'm in politics for.
En als je nou op één manier op een knieën wilt krijgen, als je je vrijheid af wilt nemen, dan pakken ze je voedsel af. En daar zijn ze mee bezig.
Do you see any hope? Do you see any hope for the situation?
Yeah, sure, yes. No farmers, no food.
Yeah.
They will know it. So, yeah, we have to continue fighting for it. And, we have the best job in the world.
Thank you so much for watching this movie and going on this journey with us. To be honest with you, when we started this project, we didn't really know what to expect. We knew that there were problems with the food supply and that many farmers around the world were having a lot of problems, but we didn't know how bad the situation really was. And the farmers that we were able to feature in this documentary, as powerful as their stories were, each one of them represents 1,000, 10,000 other farmers who we just weren't able to feature. But their stories are just as heartbreaking and just as bad. The people in America and Holland, they stand to lose their generational lands and their businesses, something they've had in their family for 5-6 generations, will just be owned by the government. Whereas you have places like Sri Lanka where people are actually starving because of these government policies. And to be honest with you, one of the most heartbreaking things for me on this trip was that we would speak to these farmers and get their stories, and it would just be so hard to listen to. But then we would head into the city and speak to the people there, especially the young people, and they had no idea what's going on. We would ask them about the nitrogen policies or the climate policies or some of these other water-related policies, and they not only did not know what was going on, but they naturally sided with the government. They naturally thought that, hey, putting these farmers out of business is just going to be the cost of saving the planet. And when I heard that, to be honest with you, it really felt like the weaponization of compassion. These globalist institutions, they take advantage of people's wish and desire to be good and to help people, and they use it for their agenda, to push forward their agenda, whatever that agenda happens to be. And so that to me was the absolute most heartbreaking part of it all. But to be frank with you, at the very least, we were able to make this project and have these farmers, well, speak to the entire world through this documentary. So I thank you so much for watching. If you can, share it with as many people as you possibly can. We actually set up a special page. You can either scan that QR code or head on over to that website that you're seeing up on your screen right now. And through that webpage, you can share this documentary with your friends, your family, your colleagues, your neighbors, your community, even your enemies, so that they can really know what's going on, because this is the only way that the next great leap forward won't be a global famine and disaster that'll claim the lives of millions of people. Because, listen, what happened in China with the Great Leap Forward, well, those policies sounded great on paper. Nobody was convinced that, hey, we should do the Great Leap Forward and kill 50 million people, but that's what happened. And unfortunately, having dug into this agenda ourselves, that might be what'll happen here, where these policies, they sound so good, they sound so righteous and noble and compassionate, but the end result is that there'll be a global famine. And I hate to say it, but there are forces in this world that actually think that might be a good idea. What better way to return to nature if there's less people? So please head on over to that website, share this documentary with your friends, your family again, and on that website there's two options. You can just share it with them, or you can actually pay it forward. You can get them a subscription, just put in their email. They'll be pleasantly surprised, I'm sure, when they get an email link to the EpochTV documentary. And yeah, just please share it out with as many possible people as you can, because this information needs to be seen by everyone across the entire world.